Here's a little secret. Most Etsy shoppers decide whether they'll stick around in less than 3 seconds, and it has nothing to do with your prices or your reviews. It's your aesthetic. The very first thing they see is your banner and your photos, and if those don't feel cohesive, you might lose them before they ever click a listing. I'm Carol, a retired teacher and vintage lover, and I've been running my Etsy shop V Vintage Collectibles for 3 years now with over 1,000 sales. Along the way, I've learned that branding isn't just for big companies. On Etsy, your shop banner, your listing photos, the flow of your descriptions, even the items you carry in your shop all work together to tell buyers who you are and whether they can trust you. Today, I'll show you how to create a cohesive shop aesthetic that makes your Etsy store look polished, professional, and trustworthy without spending a fortune or needing Etsy Plus. We'll start with your banner, then move into your photos and listings, and by the end, you'll have a clear blueprint for pulling it all together. So let's start right at the front door of your shop, your banner, because that's where shoppers form their very first impression. Think of your banner as your front door. A good one is simple, easy to read, and sets the tone for everything else. Use a consistent color palette, high quality imagery, and a short phrase or tagline that tells shoppers what you're about. Even if you only have one banner without Etsy Plus, it can make a powerful first impression. For example, here's my banner. The warm golden background and styled vignettes echo the tones and moods in my listing photos. Muted, cohesive, with props that feel intentional and sometimes seasonal. The phrase, "we believe that every piece has a story," mirrors how I write my descriptions, not just factual, but storytelling. And the curated groupings in the banner, a floral vignette on one side and autumn decor on the other, reinforce the same lifestyle styling I use in my listings. When a buyer lands on my shop, the banner sets the expectation of consistency, story, and trust. And because my listings deliver that same look and feel, everything works together as a unified brand identity. Your banner sets that promise, but your listing photos are where you deliver. They show shoppers whether your brand feels consistent once they start browsing. Your banner sets the promise, but your photos are where you deliver. Shoppers move from that first impression straight into your listings, and this is where consistency really matters. Let me show you how I approach this in my own shop. I've chosen to highlight crackle glass here in my featured items, the very first thing that shoppers see as they scroll down through my shop. But notice how the styling is consistent. Neutral backdrops, simple props, and warm lighting that matches the mood set by the banner. This approach continues across my categories. Here, I've styled vintage wedding cake toppers with soft, broken backgrounds and neutral florals, keeping everything delicate and romantic. And in my vintage metals section, you'll notice warm wood, subtle greenery, and muted lighting that tie directly back to the same cohesive brand mood. Here are the 3 key takeaways you can use for your shop. Number 1, make it curated, not cluttered. Stage with intention. Props and backgrounds should highlight the piece, not compete with it. To a shopper, this feels like stepping into a well-arranged boutique instead of digging through a yard sale. Number 2, tell a visual story. Use styling to spark imagination. In my shop, muted patriotic tones, rustic wood, and greenery echo the brand mood from my banner. Shoppers see each listing as part of a lifestyle, not just an isolated product photo. Next, stay consistent across listings. Lighting, composition, and backgrounds remain steady, whether it's glassware, metals, or wedding figurines. This consistency reassures buyers what they see is what they'll get. I often get reviews where people will mention, "It looks just like it did in the photo," and that makes me so happy. When your banner and your listing photos reinforce each other, your shop feels like a curated collection. Buyers don't have to guess what you're about, and they sense it from the moment they enter and keep feeling it as they browse. And if you'd like to dive deeper into creating consistent, compelling listing photos, I have a full video on that. I'll link it here on the screen and in the description below. If you haven't seen that one, it's really worth taking a look at. But for now, let's connect the dots and look at how to intentionally design the bridge between your banner and your listings, what I call the blueprint. You just saw how my banner connects visually to my featured crackle glass collection and how that same mood carries into categories like vintage wedding and vintage metals. But how do you intentionally design that bridge between your banner and your listings? That's where the blueprint comes in. The key is to extract your brand elements from your banner and then apply them consistently throughout your shop. Color harmony. Take the core tones from your banner, in my case, warm golden neutrals and seasonal accents, and echo them in your photos through your props, backdrops, or editing. Font pairing. If you use a certain style of font in your banner, carry that over into any graphics that you create for listings, marketing, or social media. Consistency builds recognition. Photo execution. Keep lighting, composition, and prop choices aligned with the brand mood set in your banner. Titles and descriptions. Just like visuals, your words should have a rhythm. My titles always begin with vintage, and my descriptions follow a flow. Maker, what it is, context or story, dimensions, and a link to the rest of my shop. When you line up your banner, listing photos, and listing text under the same umbrella, your shop feels intentional and professional. And buyers notice that. It's not about making every single listing look identical. You probably don't want to do that. It's about making them feel like they belong to the same visual family. Designing your shop with a clear blueprint makes everything look intentional and consistent. But here's the bigger truth. Cohesion isn't just about pretty pictures. It directly impacts your sales. When buyers land in your shop, they're making quick decisions. A cohesive look builds trust, and trust leads to action. If your banner, photos, and descriptions all align, shoppers feel like they know you. They're more likely to stay longer, click through multiple listings, and actually make a purchase. Consistency also builds recognition. When buyers see the same styling cues repeated across items, they remember you. That familiarity is what brings them back for a second purchase, and that's where your shop really grows. But cohesion isn't just visual. It's also about the way you curate your shop itself. You don't want your shop to feel like a hodgepodge of random thrifting finds. Instead, think about your sections and your categories as part of your brand. In my own shop, I used to organize sections more around design styles, but I've shifted over time to focus mostly on materials. Right now, my strongest sections are glass, metal, and pottery, along with a dedicated area for weddings and a temporary bicentennial section, and of course, a seasonal Christmas section. On the other hand, I've phased out wooden textiles because those items didn't sell well for me, either because I wasn't sourcing them with enough knowledge or because they are simply not what my customers are shopping for. And I'll be phasing out my handmade from vintage section in 2026 because while those crafts were fun to make, they just haven't been consistent sellers. The bottom line is, don't spread yourself too thin. Focus on the categories that perform well, build expertise in those areas, and lean into your shop's strengths. That's how you build both confidence as a seller and recognition with your buyers. You'll have to decide for yourself by taking a look at your best-selling items how you want to break your shop into sections. When you see branding as a sales tool, it changes how you approach your shop. The good news is you don't have to overhaul everything all at once. In fact, please don't overhaul everything at once. That would be a big mistake. Small, consistent steps will get you there. So let's break down your next steps for creating and maintaining a cohesive Etsy brand. Now that you've seen how cohesion works from your banner down to your listings, let's turn that into action. Here's a simple checklist that you can start using right away. Number 1, create or update your banner with a consistent color palette and simple, clear messaging. Choose 2 to 3 props or backgrounds that reflect your brand mood and reuse them across your listings for consistency. Number 3, standardize your title format so that every listing looks like it belongs in the same shop. Number 4, write descriptions with a steady flow. What it is, a touch of context or story, the details, and a link to the rest of your shop. The key is to build gradually. You don't need to redo your whole shop overnight. And again, I say don't change everything all at once. Just start with your next listing, and over time, your shop will transform into a cohesive brand experience. And don't forget to review regularly. Look at your shop often the way buyers see it, not just look at your listings. Every so often, step back and browse your shop the way a buyer would. Ask yourself, does this feel like a curated collection or a mix of different styles? That perspective will help you keep refining as trends and your shop evolve. A cohesive shop aesthetic isn't just about style. It's about trust, recognition, and ultimately, ta-da, cha-ching, sales. By starting small and building consistency piece by piece, you'll create a shop that feels like a curated brand buyers want to return to again and again. And as always, I love to show you how this plays out in real life. So let's take a look at what's sold in my shop this week. This week, I want to share a really sweet sale from my shop. It's this vintage Lufton 30th anniversary plate with iridescent pearl finish, doves, bells, and florals. I sourced it on July 1st at my local Goodwill here in Michigan. It was part of a little bundle of anniversary plates I picked up that day, and I paid just $5.61 for it. On September 25th, it sold for $28. But here's what made this sale special. It was purchased by 2 sisters who wanted to give it as a gift to their parents celebrating their 30th anniversary. I thought that was just the sweetest thing. To make it extra meaningful, as promised in my personalization, I gift wrapped the plate in white tissue and included a handwritten card, something I offer for free with any gift order in my shop. And here's the business side. On this sale, my gross profit was $22.39. My gross margin came out to about 79.9%, and my return on investment was an impressive 399%. So not only was this a heartwarming sale, but it also showed the power of picking up the right item at the right price. Sales like this remind me of why I love running a vintage shop. It's not just about the numbers. It's about connecting pieces of the past with people who will treasure them in the present and the future. I hope today's tips help you see how building a cohesive shop aesthetic can create the same sense of trust and connection with your buyers. If you found this helpful, please subscribe if you haven't already so you won't miss the next video. And as always, thank you for spending this time with me.